I don't know how to start this, so I'll just say it. I think I'm disappearing. Not in a metaphorical way, not depression, not burnout. I mean, something is replacing me, piece by piece, and I don't know when it started or how far along it already is. Let me go back 3 weeks. It started with the coffee. I've been drinking my coffee black for 11 years. No sugar, no milk. Black, always. It's not a preference. It's just who I am, or who I was. 3 weeks ago, I woke up, made my usual cup, took one sip, and immediately went to the fridge for the milk. I didn't think about it. My hand just moved, and the coffee with milk tasted right. It tasted like how it was supposed to taste. I stood in the kitchen for a long time after that. I told myself it was nothing. The second thing happened 4 days later. I was driving home from work, same route I've taken for 6 years, every single day. Left on Meridian, right on 5th over the bridge, automatic, muscle memory. Except that evening, I turned right on Meridian. I didn't realize I'd done it until I was 3 blocks down a road I never take. And the strange part, the part that kept me up at that night, is that it felt normal. It felt like the right way, like my body knew a route home that I didn't. I turned around, I drove my usual way, but my hands kept wanting to pull right. I started writing things down after that, little things, changes. I used to hate the smell of rain, the petrichor thing everyone loves. It always gave me a headache, ever since I was a kid. 2 weeks ago, I opened the window during a storm and just breathed it in, and it smelled like something I'd been missing. I used to sleep on my right side. Now I wake up on my left, every morning, no matter how I fall asleep. I used to flinch at loud noises. Last week, my downstairs neighbor slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I didn't even blink. Small things, stupid things, but there were so many of them. I called my sister. We talk every Sunday. Ever since our mom died 7 years ago, I needed to hear a familiar voice. She picked up and said, "Oh, it's you! You sound different." I asked her what she meant. She paused for a second and said, "I don't know. Your voice, it's a little lower maybe. Are you getting sick?" I said no. She said, you sound like you, but not quite." We talked for an hour, normal stuff, but before she hung up, she said it again, almost to herself, "Not quite." That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time. I do look like myself, same face, same eyes, but I started to notice that when I look at my reflection, there's a delay before I recognize it. A half second where I'm looking at a stranger, and then it clicks. That's me, and everything goes back to normal. That half second is getting longer. Here's the part I haven't told anyone. Last Tuesday, I was eating dinner alone. I was watching something on my laptop, not really paying attention, and I picked up my fork and started eating with my left hand. I am right-handed. I have been right-handed my entire life. I didn't notice until I was halfway through the meal. I switched back to my right hand. It felt clumsy. It felt wrong. I put the fork down and I didn't finish eating. I've been trying to find a rational explanation. Maybe some kind of neurological thing. Maybe stress. Maybe I'm just changing naturally and I'm too inside my own head to notice that people change all the time. But here's what I can't explain away. I found a journal, my handwriting, my pen, my notebook, from about 2 months ago, and there's an entry I don't remember writing. It's in my handwriting, exactly my handwriting, but the words are off, like someone who studied how I write but doesn't quite think like I do. The sentences are too clean, too careful. and at the bottom of the entry, underlined, it says, Day 12, integration at 34%. The host is not yet aware. I don't know what that means. I don't know who wrote that. I don't know if I wrote that. I'm posting this because I need someone to tell me I'm not crazy. Or, and this is the thought that wakes me up at 5 am, I need someone to tell me that the thing posting this is crazy. Because what if I'm not the one who decided to post this? What if something that is almost me, that moves like me, and sounds like me, and is slowly learning to be me, is posting this to feel normal? What if it found my account, read through my old posts to get the voice right, and is now reaching out the way I would, because that's what you do when you're scared? What if the thing that is scared isn't me anymore? I'm going to look in the mirror now. I'll be back to update this. They never updated. Have you ever looked in the mirror and for just a second didn't recognize the face staring back at you? Most people shake it off, blink, move on. But what if you couldn't? It started for John on an ordinary Tuesday morning. He was 34 years old, software engineer, two-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio. He had a dog named Pepper, a coffee maker he loved too much, and a life that was, by all accounts, completely unremarkable. He woke up at 6:47 am, 3 minutes before his alarm, as always. He shuffled to the bathroom and turned on the faucet, cold water on his face. And then he looked up. The man in the mirror looked almost right. Same brown eyes, same jaw, same small scar above the left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. But something was off. John leaned closer. His reflection leaned closer too, perfectly synchronized. He raised his right hand. The reflection raised its left, as mirrors do. He smiled. The reflection smiled back. He told himself it was nothing. Sleep deprivation. He'd been working late all week on a deadline. The brain plays tricks. He made his coffee, fed Pepper, took the elevator down, walked to the bus stop. Normal. Completely normal. But on the bus, a woman sitting across from him, a stranger, stared at him for a long time. Then she quietly moved to another seat. By Thursday, John had started keeping notes. Not because he was the journaling type, he'd never been, but because things kept slipping. He found himself standing in rooms with no memory of walking into them. He sent an email to a client and signed it with a name he didn't recognize. Thomas. He didn't know anyone named Thomas. He called his mother that night. She picked up on the second ring, the way she always did. "John," she said, and there was something in her voice, careful, like she was choosing her words. "Mom," he said, "do I seem different to you lately?" "Different how?" "I don't know, just different." Another pause. "You've seemed different," she said quietly, "for about 3 weeks now." "What do you mean? 3 weeks? What happened 3 weeks ago?" John didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk and tried to reconstruct the last 3 weeks from memory. And this is where it gets truly disturbing, not because he couldn't remember, but because he could. He remembered everything perfectly, every conversation, every meal, every moment. The memories were vivid, detailed, specific. They just didn't feel like his. It's a sensation psychologists sometimes describe in patients with dissociative disorders. The sense that your memories belong to a character you've been reading about, not a life you've been living. But John had no diagnosis, no history of trauma, no explanation. Just 3 weeks of someone else's life, sitting perfectly inside his skull. He went to a doctor, then a therapist, then a neurologist. Brain scans, normal. Psychological evaluation, within range. You're experiencing dissociation, the therapist told him. It's more common than people think. Stress can. It's not stress, Daniel said. Daniel, it's not stress. He went home. He opened his laptop and he did something he'd been avoiding. He read his own emails from the last 3 weeks. The writing style was different, slightly more formal, different word choices, a different cadence. The same email signature, the same email address, but not the same person. Now, here is where I want you to sit with something uncomfortable. Because the truly horrifying part of John's story isn't a monster, it isn't a supernatural entity, it isn't a curse or a haunting. The truly horrifying part is this: no one noticed. His co-workers noticed nothing, his friends noticed nothing, his dog, Pepper, seemed slightly less excited to see him, but dogs are moody. No one flagged it, no one called, because whoever, or whatever, had been living John's life for 3 weeks was good at it, maybe even better than John. There's a philosophical thought experiment, you may have heard of it, called the ship of the Zeus. If you replace every plank of a ship, one by one, until no original material remains, is it still the same ship? Apply that to a person. Replace the memories, but keep them accurate. Replace the habits, but keep them functional. Replace the voice, the face, the name, but make them identical. At what point does a person stop being themselves? And, perhaps more terrifyingly, how would anyone know? John is still out there, living his life, drinking his coffee, feeding his dog. The therapist says he's improving. His mother says he sounds more like himself lately. More like himself. The question is, which self? Tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to try something. Think of 3 memories from last week. Really picture them. Where you were, what you felt, what it smelled like. Got them? Now ask yourself honestly, how do you know those are yours? Before I tell you this story, I need you to do something for me. Go find a mirror, stand in front of it, look at yourself, really look, and ask yourself, is that actually you staring back? Because after what happened to Marcus Webb, he could never be sure again. Marcus was 26, lived alone in a studio apartment in Portland, Oregon. He was the kind of guy nobody really noticed. Quiet job, quiet life, the sort of person who blends into the background of a coffee shop and disappears. He first saw it on a Tuesday. He was walking home from the grocery store, arms full of bags, when he passed the window of a laundromat. He caught his reflection in the glass, but stopped, froze, because the reflection didn't stop walking. It kept going, turned the corner, vanished. Marcus stood there for a full 30 seconds, grocery bags cutting into his palms, staring at an empty reflection of himself in the glass. He told himself it was the light, trick of the eye. He'd been sleeping badly. He told himself a lot of things that night. But then, his neighbor knocked on his door. Old Miss Calloway from 4B, sweet woman. She smelled like lavender and always called him dear. "Oh, Marcus," she said, looking confused. "Didn't you just leave? I saw you heading down the stairs not 5 minutes ago." Marcus hadn't left his apartment in 2 hours. He smiled, said she must be mistaken, closed the door. and stood in the dark hallway of his apartment, perfectly still, listening to the sound of his own breathing. Over the next week, the sightings multiplied. A coworker mentioned she'd seen him at a bar on Friday night, waving at her from across the room. Marcus had been home alone, asleep by then. His phone showed a text message he had no memory of sending to his mother. "Don't worry about me. I'm doing just fine," sent at 3 a.m. in the morning. He checked his sent folder 3 times. It was there, his name, his number, his words. He started setting up his phone camera at night, pointed at his bedroom door. Every morning, he'd fast forward through the footage, heart hammering. For 6 days, nothing. On the 7th morning, he almost skipped the footage entirely. He almost didn't press play. Thank God he did. Or maybe, thank God he didn't. At 2:48 a.m., the door handle turned, slowly, quietly, like someone who knew exactly how to avoid the creak. The door opened 3 inches, stopped. Then a face appeared in the gap. His face. Same jaw, same eyes, same small scar above the left eyebrow from a childhood bicycle accident. It looked directly into the camera and it smiled. Not the way Marcus smiled. Not warm, not uncertain. This smile was patient, practiced, like it had been rehearsing a human expression and had almost gotten it right. The door closed. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, watching that 6-second clip on loop for 2 hours. He went online. He needed answers, or at least, he needed to feel like he was doing something. He fell down a rabbit hole of folklore, sleep science, mythology, and he found a thread, old forum. Half the links were dead, but the post was still there, written by someone called Mirror Twin, 1987. The post read, "If you're reading this, you've already seen it. Here's what I know. Here's what keeps you safe. Rule 1. Do not acknowledge it in public. If you see it on the street, look away. Cross the street. If you make eye contact, it learns your expressions. It practices them. Rule 2. Never let anyone believe it's you. The more people who think it's real, the stronger it gets. Rule 3. Never speak its name. I know that sounds ridiculous. It doesn't have a name. But if you start calling it something, anything, you're giving it an identity. And an identity is a foothold. Rule 4, and this is the most important one. Never ever look in the mirror after dark. Because at night, it doesn't mirror you anymore. At night, it moves first." The account had been inactive since 2019. Marcus sent a message anyway. The reply came back in 4 minutes. "I'm so glad you found me. I've been trying to reach you for weeks." Marcus' blood went cold. He hadn't told anyone about the account. He hadn't even created a profile. He'd just been browsing, anonymous. He typed back, "Who is this?" The response, "You know who this is. You've seen me. You just can't admit it yet. We need to talk, Marcus. In person. I know where you live." He should have left the city that night. He didn't. Something kept him there. Stubbornness, maybe. Or maybe it was the thing that folklore always warns about. Morbid curiosity, the need to look. He sat in his apartment and waited. At midnight, there was a knock on the door. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. He walked to the door, passed his eye to the people standing in the hallway under the flickering fluorescent light. Was himself. Same jacket he'd worn last Thursday, same slight hunch of the shoulders, same hair falling across the forehead. But the posture was wrong, too still, the way a person stands still when they're concentrating very hard on standing still. The thing in the hallway turned his head, slowly, and looked directly at the people. It couldn't see him. The glass was one way. There was no way it could know where his eye was, but it looked directly at him, and it said, in his voice, his exact voice, his accent, his rhythm, "I just want to come home, Marcus. You've been outside long enough. It's my turn." He backed away from the door. He didn't breathe. He didn't move. He stood in the center of his apartment and counted to 100, then 200. The knocking didn't come again, but in the morning, his spare key was missing from the hook by the door. Marcus left Portland 3 days later. He doesn't stay anywhere longer than 2 months now. He keeps no routines, changes his appearance regularly, tells nobody where he's going. He sent me this account through an encrypted email with no return address and asked me to share it. He said, and I'm quoting directly here, "It only gains power when it goes unwitnessed. The more people who know what it is, the harder it is for it to pretend. Tell them, tell everyone." I've been thinking about that message for 3 weeks now, and I've been thinking about something else too. About the fact that this email came from a device located 2 blocks from my house. About the fact that last night my neighbor asked me why I was standing in my backyard at 3 in the morning. I was asleep at 3 in the morning. I was asleep. So, go back to that mirror, look at yourself again, and this time, pay attention to whether it blinks before you do. Sleep well.